السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Allah in whose name we begin, the eternal with no beginning, everlasting with no ending. Peace and choicest salutations upon the cream of creation, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Welcome to this online program, as is the case now. People are finding it a little bit more easier to discuss matters online due to the COVID-19 crisis. And as a result of the particular crisis that we are in, I thought it necessary for us to contemplate and reflect on the Quran and use it as a means to answer a few questions pertaining to these testing times that we're living in. So what we find is that the surah of discussion for today, of course, brought to you by the Islamic Lifestyle Solutions. And the surah of discussion today is Surah Duha. Now, what we will do is we'll be analyzing the surah, but not from the conventional means, but we'll try to give us a little bit of perspective on how the Quran can bring about a different dimension of understanding if we take the opportunity to contemplate and reflect upon the wonder and beauty of its message. Now, I'm going to start here with the first slide. Sorry about that. The first slide, inshallah. And we'll try to ascertain some information pertaining to the subject, right? So, firstly, the socio-historic background of the surah. So, Surah Duha, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the surah itself. It's quite beautiful, very rhythmic. You'll find many of the huffaz at any given opportunity, they try their level best to try and recite it. It flows very, very nice. Alhamdulillah, it's a wonderful surah. The surah itself was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ because of a specific incident. Now, what had happened is revelation had ceased for a period of time. And as a result of this, the Prophet ﷺ became very, very sad. Now, it's quite easy for us to understand why he ﷺ became sad. I mean, for those who maybe in the month of Ramadan developed a beautiful relationship with the Quran, and then suddenly when things go back to, as we call, normal, then, we're sort of feeling the distance from the Quran. Now, this is just us when there's a little bit of gap in our recitation. We're talking about the Prophet ﷺ having Quran revealed directly to his blessed heart. So, obviously, that feeling of disconnection as a result with everything else, as a result of not having revelation come to him. In the process, what had happened is the people in Makkatul Mukarramah, who were the enemies of the Prophet ﷺ, they began to tease him, they began to ridicule him a little bit more, and they began to mock him. In fact, Abu Lahab's infamous wife went on to say, قَدْ تَرَكَكَ شَيْطَانُكَ, it seems like your devil has left you, referring to Jibreel alayhi salam. So they kept saying that the Prophet ﷺ was abandoned by his Lord, and this hurt the Messenger, peace be upon him, quite a bit. As a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals Surah Duha. Now, in general, if you don't understand socio-historic background pertaining to the verse, then the essence of the message that is to come with that is kind of lost in translation. But the beauty of the Quran is, whilst there is at times specificity, there's also a general meaning. So you could open Surah Duha, you could read it, and the general meaning will resonate with you without any problem whatsoever. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we seem to be having a little bit of a technical glitch here, but inshallah we'll overcome that shortly. Okay, so now that we've understood that, let's go to the next part. So the Prophet ﷺ was on the receiving end of these, nasty messages and so forth, nasty things that was being said to him ﷺ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then reveals the surah as I've discussed with you, right? Let's move on to the next point. So we must understand that his disappointment again was due to having this connection with the revelation, and we should not, ma'adallah, say that the Prophet ﷺ was in a state of depression for any worldly means. That would be very, very unkind for us as Muslims to say at the same juncture. Now, moving on to the next one. So what is the specific analysis of the surah? This is very, very important. So the specific analysis and what is the general analysis of the surah for the 21st century. So specifically, we've told you that the surah was revealed as a result of the situation. But when we take the specific context and apply it to the general understanding, we see that Surah Duha has a very, very different meaning. I mean, you could open Surah Duha and it speaks about the time of Duha, it speaks about the night, that's fine. But how does this message link up with us in the 21st century in particular? So let's understand a few things. We live in a time where cars are getting faster, communications are getting smarter. These tools are marketed as means of convenience. But we seem to be more stressed today than ever before. Everyone doesn't have time. These supposed gadgets which were designed to make an ease of transition for things in life, and with all of these connections to the World Wide Web out there, there is a disconnect elsewhere. And you'll have people complaining, I can't get a conversation in with this personality because he's always on his phone, or he's always busy on the computer, whatever the case may be. It was supposed to be a means of convenience, but we've actually become consumed by it. So we've established connections there, but as a result of that, there's disconnections elsewhere. So Surah Duha and our analysis is how it can give across a meaning to alleviate the stresses of the modern age. And this is very important because people seem to be more stressed out, even now with the COVID-19 crisis out there. Some people are stressed and anxious because they're stuck at home. Others are stressed and anxious because their jobs demand that they have to be on the outside. And the outside is where the disease or the epidemic is spreading. So these are matters of concern. Now, what I've done is taken the idea of a magnet, which has positive and negative pulling power, and see how we can use Surah Duha in view of the negatives that it pulls. Without, obviously, there's no negatives in the surah, but taking the surah itself on a journey of changing that negative mindset into a positive understanding. Okay, in general, what advice do we give to people who are in depression? What are the normal things that we say to them? If you can, for a moment, just ask yourself, if you had to console a loved one, a friend, and they're going through stress, they're going through some kind of depression, what are the things that we tell them? Well, in general, we'll say, come on, you can't be set in that corner. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. We want to give them messages of positivity. Wake up and smell the roses, right? You have this gift of life out there. Why are you sitting and getting depressed? I mean, aside from the lockdown situation, we'll tell someone, go out, get out of the house, do something that's going to make you feel better. This is the type of advice that we would give to people. Now, with that in mind, and the context of how the Prophet ﷺ was in the state and the surah was revealed, let's look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ad-Duha. By the morning, it's glory. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have started the first verse of the surah by saying, okay, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they say XYZ thing about you, I haven't left you. But no, the Quran was not being revealed only for that time. It was going to give a message for people across the ages. So what does Allah Ta'ala do? He brings the mindset to the concept of understanding the next day, the morning, what is to come. Now, we take pictures of the horizon. Alhamdulillah, I know one particular person here who sends us a morning picture and an evening picture of the horizon. Allah Ta'ala bless him and all those who try to instill the mindset of fikr on the creation of Allah. Now, looking at that image, in general, it's something that we associate with serenity. We associate with tranquility. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to focus on the nature of things if we want to correct our mindset altogether. So focus on nature. Are you really so depressed? We have people today who want to commit suicide. Are they really so depressed they want to commit suicide and miss out on all of these bounties of Allah? We tell people, you want to sit in this little corner of yours. There's a whole world out there. And in general, what they say, okay, I'll start. And we say, no, come on. first thing tomorrow, the first thing tomorrow I want you to do is get out of the house, get into a place where you can find tranquility, connect with nature. And we do this in life. We tell people, take a holiday. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is training the mind that when you are in this particular state, that's the best thing that you could do. Focus on nature. Now, the focus is on dawn because the time of duha is just after that. You know, people who did not go to read Eid al-Fitr Salah, they were reading Salatul Duha. So the focus is on dawn now, which is a specific time of day. But guess what? On a normal basis, not everyone is up by then. In general, we know people are still fast asleep, especially in the summertime when dawn is quite early, the early hours of the morning. People are fast asleep. Now, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to focus on the dawn, on that particular time, so we have to ask ourselves the question, which people have the ability to wake up early? It's a very, very important question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now is giving us a guideline, a code of conduct, if we want to alleviate our minds from, that abyss of depression that we have caged ourselves in. So we have to ask ourselves, which people have the ability to wake up early? This is a very logical question. And the answer, depressed people, they stress at night. And their days are spent loathing and moaning. It doesn't help the situation. You find a person who's got a lot on their mind, a person who's stressed, a person who's depressed. What do at night? They lie awake. They can't sleep. They have this huge burden on their shoulders, on their minds. There's nothing much they can do. So as a result of that, it affects you the next day, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us now. We don't need all of this in our minds. The day is connected. What is it connected to? Well, let's go through that very, very quickly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. Now we haven't answered the question yet, but that will be answered shortly. The question of the morning and who has the ability to wake up the next morning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then in the next verse says, وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. And by the night, when it covers. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shifts focus from the concept of the day, which is the dawn, and then now goes to the night. There's a link here. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ma'adullah was filling in spaces? No, there's great hikmah. There is great wisdom in everything which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals in the Qur'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Naba, and وَجَعَلْنَا نَوْمَكُمْ سُبَاتًا. And we made your sleep to be rest for you. وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا. And we made the night to be a covering for you. And وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا. And we made the day for seeking livelihood. Now, this is basically the Quran telling us something that we ought to have known. You need to, if you are depressed, if you are sad, if you are stressed, what you need to do is you need to sleep. You need to have good rest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the night for us to rest and the day for us to work. But we work the opposite way around. We tend to stay up late, doing everything else. And during the day, we're battling more. A person who stays up at night stressed and worrying, how do they wake up the next morning? They're all groggy. They're all grumpy. They don't feel well about themselves, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying what? Take rest. Bring about a balance in your routine. By the morning, by the duha, if you want to experience it and be as fresh as that horizon, that night which covers you, which envelops you, you need to make full use of that night. These are all divine wisdoms, and these are things that psychologists will tell you today. If you're stressed out, if you're battling, you have depression, the psychologist tells you, well, what you need to do is you need to take your rest and so forth, right? So, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining this to us. Okay, so let's move to the next one. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after giving us that advice, now tells us, of course, we know that from this, a person in depression, they feels like they're in a very dark place, because now we're talking about the night, right? They feel like they're in a state of helplessness. The burden is too much. They just want to sleep day and night. You find some people in the state of depression, they have no concept of day and night. They just want to go under the cover. The world doesn't exist because they're carrying the stress upon them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, if you're in this dark place, remember, the night and day, there's no such thing as complete darkness. We have the daybreak, we have morning, and then we have the night. So take your mindset out of this perception that you are stuck in a dark place, because all around you, everything's moving in the cosmos in a state of harmony. So now if you feel like you're in the state of helplessness and the burden is a little bit too much to bear, then what you need to do is you need to get into a proper routine and not sleep away your time. Now, the routine of people in the modern age is actually opposed to human nature. And I've just mentioned this shortly. It's one thing for us to want to do certain things, go out, see family. Alhamdulillah, this is all excellent, and it maintains family ties. We want to go out with our families. Of course, now in the lockdown period, this is very much impossibilities. But the point being that our behavior seems to be not in accordance to the natural cause of things. Even when we are in our homes, we want to spend the entire night doing things that we don't need to do. And as a result, we wake up the next morning and we're complaining that our body is sore, that we're tired, we don't know how to deal with these situations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you that you are bringing on stress to yourself. You need to get into the routine which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, and use the opportunity of the night to get the much needed rest. Now, we ask again, how do we console a person who's depressed? How do we console a person who is going through some kind of testing time, some tribulation, some kind of difficulty? What do we say? We say, I'm here for you. Don't we say that? Don't we say, oh, don't worry, I'm here for you. If you need anything, I'm here for you. Even though you might be staying 50 kilometers away, but you tell the person, I'm here for you. Because the person needs to hear that they have support. They need to know that there's somebody that they can turn to. We're going to give them hope. We don't want them in a state of helplessness and hopelessness to fall deeper into the abyss of depression. So we generally say, I'm here for you. Well, look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet. Your Lord has not forsaken you, nor has he become displeased with you. The people said that the Prophet ﷺ, God had forsaken him, that his ma'adallah, his devil, Jibreel, had left him. He forgot about him. When we are going through trials and tribulations, we think that no one is with us. We think that I'm in this battle all alone. We say to people, oh, I don't expect you to know what I'm going through, because you're not going through it. I'm going through it. I know what I'm going through. And then we look around and we say, oh, when I was in difficulty, who was there? Nobody was there. I did it on my own. It was all me. When someone is displeased with us, we think, okay, well, this person is upset with me, and suddenly they're ignoring me. It leads to a state of depression, leads to a state of confusion. So Allah Ta'ala is saying to the Prophet, but also to us, that don't think that you're in this alone. Don't think that there's nobody with you. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is with you through everything, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal reminds us. So don't lose hope. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran that لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. He has not placed upon us a burden more than we can shoulder, more than we can manage. لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله. Do not be away from the mercy of Allah. You can't be. Allah Azza wa Jall's rahmah and mercy is such, you could never ever in your entire life be away or be in a place in which the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not reach you. Allah Ta'ala says He's closer to you than your jugular vein. So when we console people, when we tell them about all these positive messages that we would like to give them, we say to them that don't worry, I'm here for you. And this is your Rabb. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to us all that He is here for us. Now, a depressed person feels like they're falling down this abyss. And sometimes people will say, hey, you know what, Sheikh, Maulana, you know, it's just one thing in the next. Will this ever end? And this kind of mentality causes us to spiral deeper and deeper into that dark abyss of depression. We only begin to calculate all of the things that's going wrong in life, and then we say, hey, will this ever end? And so it leads you deeper and deeper into that state of depression, that dark state of mind. You say, I'm in a very, very dark place right now. But why is that happening? It's as a result of the way we're thinking. And we need to correct that. Now, this psychological stagnation causes one to, relive the reasons of depression. And it makes the trauma repeat itself. The more you think about whatever difficulty you're going through, the more you have to relive it in your mind. And then this psychological stagnation that we have, it causes us to be in a place that we can't move forward. We're still stuck in the past. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to come out of this kind of mentality. He is giving us that formula in Surah Duha. Allah Ta'ala is advising you, don't dwell on the past. Look forward. Look to the future. So from the beginning of the surah, he said, Ad-Duha. He wants you to look at the next morning. Forget today. It happened. Look to tomorrow. But the day and night that's there, that's moving, according to Surah Yasin, كُلٌّ فِي فَلَكِ يَسْبَحُونَ, they are moving all in orbit. Everything has its place. You need to find how you amalgamate your routine to move into the system, to take the rest that you deserve, to not stay up at night, so that you can focus on the moment. Right? Don't dwell on the past. This is the first thing it's telling you. Don't dwell on the past. You need to move towards the future. So guess what Allah Ta'ala says next? وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى. What is to come is better than what has passed. Is this not the way we advise people who are sad, people who are depressed, people who are battling in their specific situations? What do we say to them? We say to them that don't worry, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about what happened. Inshallah, something better will come. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's divine methodology of teaching us through Surah Duha of how to advise people who are undergoing these kinds of stresses and so forth, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal now tells us that we should not lose hope, right? So your Lord has not forsaken you, He's not displeased with you, right? But let's just go back a few here so I can just make this other point very, very clearly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet ﷺ that He's here for us, right? That's clarified. He says that He's not forsaken you. He's not displeased with you. These are reiterating points so that those who are joining in can understand where we are in the discussion, okay? Okay, so the psychological stagnation is a problem. So Surah Duha is advising you not to dwell on the past. So where are we now? What has come is better than what has passed. Allah Azza wa Jal says, it was He who created man. And, we, right? We created man, and وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِنَفْسُهُ, and we know about the dark suggestions that his soul makes to him. نَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. But we are closer to him than his jugular vein. How can we as believers, if we are going through depression, if we are suffering some kind of stress, ever think that we are alone in our situation? When ayats of the Quran like this are telling us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. He's closer to the believer than the jugular vein. He knows how the waswasa affects us. He knows this because He's our creator. And therefore, He's always with us. But we need to invoke Him. We need to allow His divine hand to direct us in the correct route. So Allah Ta'ala is telling us, stop the negative mindset. Be positive. And it's no coincidence that the surah after Surah Duha, Surah Al-Nashr, Al-Inshirah, it says not once but twice, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Right? With difficulty comes ease, with difficulty comes relief. We're being reminded of this. We just have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to go very quickly. And Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. And soon your Lord will give you that which you shall be pleased with. Now, you're going through depression. Won't it be nice to know that you're going to get some kind of reward? Reward is something that causes the mindset, to calm down from the state that it's in. We always try to show people who are in problems the fruit of their labor if they work hard. We tell people, don't worry about what happened. You work hard, you strive, something better will happen, something better. Now Allah Ta'ala says, wala sofa. Soon you'll get. Why soon? Because we want the person who we're giving this advice, we want them to hope in the near future. We want them to see that whatever they're going to get is going to come close. It's not going to take another 20 years. Immediately you're giving the person something to live for. Set goals. Make progressive steps forward. And you'll reap the rewards. So subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us absolutely perfect advice on how we deal with stress, how we deal with depression, how we console people. We need to set goals that are achievable. Imagine someone coming and telling you, my life is so difficult. Don't worry, 20 years time you'll be fine. Already they're going to be more stressed by what you just said. They say, inshallah, just focus, come out of the past, look to the future. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will soon reward you. You say soon, automatically, the person understands. A person who's battling in an economic position and the CEO tells him, the way you're working, soon you will be rewarded automatically. The whole mindset changes. Allah Ta'ala then asks, did he not find you an orphan and shelter you? Now, how does this apply to us? We may have, both our parents alive, if any of them have passed away, Allah Ta'ala give them Jannah. What is Allah Ta'ala doing here? Allah Ta'ala is saying, look at the orphan. Do you think your situation is bad? You have a right to be depressed? The orphan is nothing. You have a family, you have structure, you have support. You have parents, you have friends. You have people with familial bonds. You are better than the orphan. So look at those beneath you before you decide to complain of your situation, before you think that all hope is lost. Look at those who are suffering worse than you, and psychologically you'll begin to feel a whole lot better. Now, people who suffer the consequences and then want to, commit suicide and so forth, there's something to consider. So then Allah Ta'ala says, وَوَجَدْكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى, and he found you lost and directed you. If you take these directions in your state of being psychologically lost, take the direction from Allah. And if you do, inshallah, you will find a way out of the darkness and into the light. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, just look back on your life from where you were before to now. Do we not feel that Allah Ta'ala has brought us to a better place? Look at where you were 5, 10, 15 years ago, and look now. With all the difficulties, with all the trials and tribulations, you've still managed to move forward. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is there for you, but you didn't even know. Now that you know, focus on Him. Speak with Him, and He will guide you, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala is telling us, never feel that you are far away from His guidance. Right? الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي فَهُوَ يَهْدِينِ. It is He who created me, and therefore it is He who guides me. But until and unless you acknowledge that guidance, you've got to take the advice of the people when they're asking you, to abstain from your old ways and so forth in order to come out of depression. Allah Ta'ala says, وَوَجَدْكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى, and He found you in need, and we made you prosperous. Now you might be wondering, well, that might not necessarily be my situation in particular. How does that work? Well, people are there's a constant depression due to the financial status of people. Right now, due to COVID-19, it's never been any better. It's worse. But Allah Ta'ala is saying, look back. You're crying about what you lost, but who enriched you in the first place? And what is the value that you place on things? Is it only on money? But there's also health. There's the greatest of treasure, of Iman. Put a value on those things. You'll see that you have more to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for than there are things for you to be sad and depressed about. Therefore, Allah Ta'ala says that Do not oppress the orphan. He takes it somewhere else altogether. There's an emotional reflection. There are people who are worse than you out there, so therefore you need to take care of them. So get up, come out of this mindset. There's work to be done. Allah Ta'ala says, and وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. Now there's an economic reflection. That you are complaining, you don't have wealth, you don't have money. There are people below you that are in a far worse state than you are in. And reflect. You think you have problems? How much more depressed the beggar must be. We see them so often now on the street, we forget. Consider the condition of those below you. Be grateful. We went to sleep on a full stomach. When we woke up in the morning, we had no fear because the fridge was full. There are people below us that go through much, much worse. Therefore, Surah Duha is telling you, look at others below you and you will never be depressed again. You will never be sad again. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that as far as the favors of Allah are concerned, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. As far as the favors of Allah are concerned, enumerate them. They are innumerable. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, as far as the favors of your Lord are concerned, they are innumerable. You will never ever be able to come to a conclusion. So we must be grateful for what you have instead of complaining about what is lost. This is the mentality that Surah Duha is trying to implement. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to have, specifically to people who are suffering from these kinds of depression and so forth. So Surah Duha on the whole, of course we have to go through it very quickly. It gives us an idea that when a surah of the Quran is studied by its context, not just on face value, the context resonates with the meaning of the surah. In our courses, the Islamic Lifestyle Solutions that we teach, one of the things we implement on the subject of methodology is to teach this very important lesson. That in order for us to come to these kinds of conclusions from the surahs of the Quran, we must not just recite it tilawa, we must understand it. We must study it. We must know the context, because the life of the Prophet ﷺ is the highest yardstick of measuring any form of greatness, any lesson we wish to learn. And those lessons, once learned from the seerah of Rasulullah, juxtaposed with our current predicaments that we are in, we'll see that the Quran gives us, such an essential, such a beautiful message that 1400 years later, it still resonates with us today. And this is the beauty of the book and the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's very important that we take cognizance of these messages, these vital lessons. And this is one surah. There are another 113 that can affect and impact positively the human being, the reader of the Quran, if you are willing to draw out the gems of wonder and splendor and beauty that comes out from the Quran. Unfortunately, time doesn't permit for us to delve into any of the subjects or all the relative subjects that come from it much more. But we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our little gathering here today. May it be a means of positive information and knowledge going to us, and maybe be able to disseminate this knowledge to others. Inshallah, the video will be uploaded to YouTube by this evening. We will send it out, try and send it to others if you feel that it's benefited you and it can help others. And remember myself and the ulama of the Islamic Lifestyle Solutions in your dua. If anything good has been achieved, the praise belongs to Allah, the false are mine. Astaghfirullah min kulli dhanbi wa atubu ilayh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.